Today is day one of early voting here in the state of Texas, including here in Lubbock, which means you can go to the polls and vote in the Republican and Democrat runoff elections. And joining us on the phones right now to talk about his campaign for the 99th District Court, we have Judge Phillip Hays here on the Chad Hasty Show. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
I'm great, Chad. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We appreciate you joining us today. You are running in the Republican runoff primary race for that 99th District Court. Refresh people a little bit about who you are, your history, and why you're running for the 99th District Court.
Well, thank you. I am the former judge of County Court at Law Number 3 here in Lubbock County, and I have been a civil trial lawyer for the last 30 years here in Lubbock County. My practice has been devoted to civil litigation, family and divorce, child custody and child support issues, personal injury cases, both as a plaintiff and also as a defendant. And then I'm seeking this court because of my prior judicial experience in County Court at Law Number 3 and the opportunity that has presented itself with my friend Bill Sutter deciding to retire. So once that door was open, I thought I better walk in it, and here I am now, looking at a runoff in about 2 weeks.
When it comes to this type of an election, a lot of people look at resume. Where does your resume differ from your opponents, and why should people take what you have done and your resume and say that's better for this court than your opponents?
Sure. My opponent was an associate in our law firm from 2009 to 2014 when she was appointed as the judge in the CPS court. And her experience at our law firm for those 4 or 5 years she was here was primarily focused on child protective service cases, and that's why she applied for and was selected as the best candidate for that job when she was appointed. So for that 4 or 5 years, plus the time that she's been on the bench since then, she's not been in the courtroom. She's not handled any civil matters or any family law cases or anything like that from start to finish. She has presided mainly over parents deciding whether parents get to keep their kids or not. So her at least last 10 or 11 years has been very limited to that area of law. I can't speak for her experience prior to that. But my experience for the last 30 years has been focused solely on the types of cases that come before this court that I'm seeking to become the judge of. Those are, civil litigation matters, which include car wrecks and personal injury cases and disputes between neighbors and businesses, and felony criminal cases that are also are applicable to this particular court, divorce, family law, suits involving the title or ownership or contest of ownership of real estate, any kind of contested elections like Larry Doss and Steve Denny had back when their race was pushed back to a runoff, and then also suits involving the state of Texas, for or against the state of Texas or the city of Lubbock. Those all fall in this court, and I've represented countless citizens and entities in those kinds of cases for 30 years.
When it, obviously with coronavirus and everything else going on in the news, the runoff race has kind of been lost in the news cycle. What have you been doing to run during this primary runoff? Have you been getting out and knocking on doors, or has the campaign kind of taken a different look during the last couple of months?
Well, when this thing first started, the virus first became nothing. I mean, there's no other news but the virus. It was difficult to reach out and touch people at their doors and go to meetings that you usually go to with a campaign, hold events of your own and things like that. But in the last, I'd say the last 4 weeks, things have really loosened up quite a bit, and we are walking neighborhoods. We focused a lot on direct mail. We focused a lot on our social media, and also on telephone calls. I have a fantastic group of supporters and volunteers that are out talking to people, communicating with their friends and family, and getting the word out that there is an election, number one, but number two, that Phillip Hays is the one that's qualified for this particular position.
Tell folks how they can find out more information about you before they go out and vote.
Sure. They can go to my webpage at haysforjudge.com, and that's HAYS forjudge.com, or they can go to my Facebook page, and love to have them share and like and do all the things that they tell me you're supposed to do on Facebook. That's Phillip Hays for 99th District Court. And Chad, I know these are difficult times, and I understand a lot of people would rather stay at home than vote in a runoff election. But if they or a loved one ever needs a district judge, it's going to matter to them who's sitting on the bench, and I think they will expect someone sitting on that bench to be experienced in the kind of cases that are brought before them. So I think that wraps it up, but I appreciate you having me on. And
yeah.
It's a pleasure visiting with you again. I hope to again in the future. This is a long runoff period for early voting, so perhaps I can be back on again before the end of early voting.
Absolutely. Early voting going till July 10th, Election Day on the 14th. Judge Phillip Hays, appreciate your time today. We'll visit again soon.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That's Judge Phillip Hays here on the Chad Hasty Show. Remember, early voting happening right now here in Lubbock.